This is the South Africa you think you know, but not the one you're about to see. At the southernmost point of the African continent, where the Atlantic and Indian Oceans collide with tremendous force, lies a land of profound contradictions. Here, snow-capped peaks overlook tropical beaches. Ancient deserts transform into lush rainforests within hours of travel. Lions roam vast savannas while penguins waddle on coastal shores. This is South Africa, a nation that emerged from a turbulent past to become what the world now knows as the Rainbow Nation, a place where diverse cultures coexist and create something entirely unique. But South Africa is far more than a political miracle. It's a geographic masterpiece where three ocean currents converge, creating one of the most biodiverse regions on Earth. It's where human history stretches back millions of years to our earliest ancestors. It's where cultures collide and merge, creating something entirely unique. This is a journey through extremes, from the cosmopolitan streets of Cape Town to the untamed wilderness of Kruger, from colonial wine estates to traditional Zulu villages, from the trenches of struggle to the heights of natural wonder. Welcome to South Africa, where every landscape tells a story, and every story reshapes your understanding of what's possible. Our journey begins where the continent ends, at the tip of Africa, in the shadow of a legendary mountain. Cape Town. Table Mountain dominates Cape Town's skyline, a flat-topped massif rising over 1,000 meters above sea level. When cloud formations blanket its summit, locals call it the mountain's tablecloth, a phenomenon created by southeasterly winds pushing moisture over the plateau. The rotating cable car, which completes a full 360-degree turn during its ascent, offers panoramic views of one of the world's most dramatically situated cities. To the west, the Atlantic Ocean extends to the horizon. To the east, False Bay curves along the coast. Below, Cape Town nestles impossibly between mountain and sea, a city whose very existence defies geographic logic. At the summit, the wind gusts with remarkable force. Yet the vista justifies every superlative ever written about this place. Portuguese explorer Antonio de Saldanha, who first climbed it in 1503, called this the fairest cape in the whole circumference of the earth. 5 centuries later, that assessment still holds. Bo-Kaap, cascading down the slopes below the mountain, lies Bo-Kaap, a neighborhood where rainbow-colored houses create one of Cape Town's most photographed streetscapes. This is the historic Malay Quarter, established by descendants of slaves brought from Indonesia and Malaysia during Dutch colonial rule in the 17th and 18th centuries. The vibrant paint is relatively recent. After apartheid's end in 1994, residents transformed their homes into a celebration of freedom, each bright facade a declaration of identity long suppressed by a regime that sought to erase cultural expression. The neighborhood preserves Cape Malay culture, a unique fusion of Southeast Asian and African traditions. In these narrow streets, the aroma of traditional curry blends spices that traveled across oceans centuries ago. The recipes, passed down through generations, layer Indonesian techniques with local ingredients, a culinary metaphor for cultural adaptation and survival. This community, built by those who had everything taken from them, created something that could never be destroyed, a living culture that endures as testimony to resilience. Boulders Beach. A short drive south of Cape Town, where the coastline curves toward the Cape Peninsula, lies one of the most unexpected wildlife encounters in Africa. Boulders Beach is home to a thriving colony of African penguins, a species that, despite its name, is found exclusively along the southern African coastline. The colony established itself here in 1982, when just 2 breeding pairs arrived. Today, over 3,000 penguins occupy the beach, entirely indifferent to the presence of human visitors who observe them from raised boardwalks. African penguins, sometimes called jackass penguins for their distinctly donkey-like call, are classified as endangered, their global population having declined by over 60% in the past 3 decades due to overfishing, oil spills, and habitat loss. Watching these birds navigate the boulders with their characteristic waddling gait, or observing pairs tending their nests with remarkable dedication, offers a reminder of the extraordinary biodiversity concentrated in this small corner of the world. Kirstenbosch Gardens. On the eastern slopes of Table Mountain lies Kirstenbosch, one of the great botanical gardens of the world. Established in 1913, it was the first botanical garden anywhere to be dedicated exclusively to a country's indigenous flora. The garden stretches across 528 hectares, of which only a fraction is formally cultivated. The remainder exists as protected natural forest and fynbos, a unique shrubland biome found only in the Western Cape, and one of the world's 6 recognized floral kingdoms. Despite covering less than 0.5% of Africa's surface, the fynbos biome contains nearly 20% of the continent's entire plant diversity. Walking through Kirstenbosch is an education in botanical extremes. Towering silver trees, the symbol of Cape Town, rise alongside delicate proteas, South Africa's national flower. Over 7,000 plant species grow here, many found nowhere else on Earth. The garden serves simultaneously as a conservation refuge, a research center, and a living demonstration of what this landscape looked like before human settlement altered it. Victoria and Alfred Waterfront. As the sun sets over Table Mountain, the Victoria and Alfred Waterfront comes alive. Street musicians play everything from traditional Xhosa songs to contemporary jazz. The smell of seafood and braai smoke fills the air. This is modern South Africa, diverse, vibrant, still finding its rhythm but undeniably alive. Cape Winelands. Stellenbosch. An hour east of Cape Town, the landscape transforms dramatically into rolling vineyards that rival the great wine regions of Europe. The Cape Winelands represent over 3 centuries of viticulture, established when Dutch settlers recognized these valleys as possessing ideal grape-growing conditions. The region's unique terroir, a combination of ancient granite soils, Mediterranean climate, and mountain-cooled nights, produces wines of exceptional character. Chenin Blanc, brought from France's Loire Valley in the 1650s, has become South Africa's signature white varietal, thriving here in ways it does nowhere else on Earth. Family-owned estates dot the landscape, many now in their 3rd or 4th generation of operation. These vineyards have survived droughts, plant diseases, international sanctions during apartheid, and the complete restructuring of the post-1994 economy. The vines themselves often outlive their caretakers, some specimens over 60 years old, their gnarled trunks testimony to endurance. The tasting rooms, built in traditional Cape Dutch architecture with whitewashed walls, ornate gables and thatched roofs, preserve a building style unique to this region. Inside these spaces, wine becomes a liquid expression of place, each bottle capturing specific slopes, particular soils, and the interaction of hot days with cool Atlantic breezes. Franschhoek, the French Corner. When Huguenots fled religious persecution in the late 17th century, approximately 200 families found refuge in this valley. They brought with them not just winemaking expertise, but an entire culinary philosophy that would permanently alter South African food culture. The valley's name itself, Franschhoek, meaning French Corner in Afrikaans, preserves this heritage. Street names like Huguenot Road and La Côte commemorate the refugees who transformed these slopes into some of the finest wine-producing land in the Southern Hemisphere. Today, the region represents the pinnacle of South African gastronomy. Restaurants here have pioneered a movement to reclaim indigenous ingredients and traditional cooking methods, moving away from the colonial tendency to imitate European cuisine. Ostrich, springbok, and other game meats appear alongside foraged plants that have sustained indigenous peoples for millennia. This culinary renaissance represents something larger, a nation rediscovering its own roots, validating its own terroir, and creating cuisine that honors all the cultures that have shaped this land. Route 62 stretches ahead, Africa's version of Route 66. This is the scenic way to the Garden Route, winding through mountain passes and semi-desert landscapes. Kango Caves near Ouchhorn, the journey descends into the earth. The Kango Caves, a subterranean cathedral carved by water over millions of years. Na Ezina. The Garden Route earns its name through sheer biological abundance. Dense indigenous forests meet the ocean. Estuaries and lagoons create complex ecosystems. The concentration of plant species here rivals anywhere on the continent. Kneisna occupies a unique position on a lagoon protected by two massive sandstone cliffs known as the Heads. These geological sentinels, rising dramatically from the water, create a natural harbor that has defined the town's character for centuries. Tsitsikamma National Park. Where the Storms River meets the Indian Ocean, a suspension bridge provides access to one of South Africa's most pristine ecosystems. The indigenous forest here represents some of the last remaining coastal temperate rainforest on the continent, a biological refuge that has survived largely intact, while surrounding areas were cleared for agriculture. Kruger National Park. Heading northeast, the landscape transforms dramatically. Coastal green gives way to the golden savanna of the Bushveld, Big Five territory. Kruger National Park encompasses nearly 2 million hectares of wilderness, roughly the size of Wales. Established in 1898, it stands as one of Africa's oldest conservation success stories, protecting ecosystems that have functioned for millions of years. Safari drives reveal Africa's megafauna in their natural rhythms. Elephant herds move in ancient patterns toward waterholes, matriarchs leading calves that practice essential trunk movements. Lion prides rest in dry riverbeds after successful hunts, spending up to 20 hours daily in peaceful indolence, a survival strategy perfected over millennia. This is the reality beyond dramatic documentaries. Predators are dangerous when necessary, but between kills, they simply exist. Walking through the bush on foot transforms the experience entirely. Every sense heightens. Leopard tracks in sandy soil tell recent stories. Dung beetles navigate by the sun, rolling spheres of elephant waste. Weaver birds construct architecturally precise nests. The ecosystem functions through countless small interactions, each plant, insect, and animal playing essential roles in an interdependent system. Yet this wilderness faces constant threats. Anti-poaching units patrol around the clock, protecting rhinos and elephants from poachers targeting horns for black markets. South Africa lost over 1,000 rhinos to poaching in 2013 alone. Modern conservation employs thermal drones, GPS tracking, and intelligence networks. But technology alone cannot solve the crisis. The most successful strategy recognizes that local communities must benefit economically from wildlife preservation. When villages receive tourism income, lodge employment, and community development funding, poaching decreases dramatically. Conservation is no longer about fencing off nature from humans, but creating systems where both thrive. The alternative, continued poaching, habitat loss, species extinction, benefits no one. Durban. The Indian Ocean coastline marks a dramatic shift. Warmer waters from the Agulhas Current create a subtropical climate distinctly different from Cape Town's Mediterranean character. Durban pulses with tropical energy year-round. The Golden Mile stretches along the coast, 6 kilometers of beach promenade, where surfers, fishermen, and joggers share the waterfront. Beyond the beaches, Africa's busiest port handles massive shipping traffic, a constant reminder of the city's economic significance. Between 1860 and 1911, approximately 150,000 Indians arrived as indentured laborers. They stayed. Today, their descendants form the largest Indian community outside the subcontinent, fundamentally shaping the city's character. Temples and mosques dot the landscape. Multiple languages blend in street conversations. Hindu festivals and Christian celebrations share the calendar. Durban represents South Africa's most successfully integrated city, not through policy, but through generations of shared space and gradual cultural blending that created something unique on the African continent. Zulu culture. The Zulu nation, South Africa's largest ethnic group with over 11 million members, maintains cultural practices predating European contact by centuries. Traditional homesteads preserve social structures that have functioned for generations. Warrior dances once performed before battle now serve cultural preservation. The synchronized movements, stomping rhythms, and ceremonial shields represent living connections to history, physical manifestations of collective memory. Beadwork carries symbolic language. Red represents intense emotions. White signals purity. Black indicates marriage. Patterns communicate relationship status and clan affiliation. Entire biographies readable to trained observers. Johannesburg. Johannesburg, Joburg, Jozi, Egoli, serves as South Africa's economic powerhouse, a sprawling metropolis of contrasts where gleaming financial districts tower above townships, where extreme wealth and poverty exist blocks apart. This is the city where apartheid met its most determined resistance. Soweto, home to over 1 million residents, became the epicenter of that struggle. On June 16, 1976, students protested peacefully, against educational oppression. Police opened fire, killing hundreds. The photograph of 13-year-old Hector Peterson's dying body became an international symbol that accelerated apartheid's collapse. The Apartheid Museum forces confrontation with this history. Visitors enter through segregated gates marked white and non-white, experiencing the systematic dehumanization that defined decades of state policy. Inside, the chronological journey moves through segregation laws, forced removals, and violent suppression, ultimately arriving at freedom. The first democratic elections, Mandela's inauguration, and a nation choosing to face its past rather than bury it. Today's Johannesburg reflects ongoing transformation. Neighborhoods like Maboneng, Place of Light, convert abandoned warehouses into creative spaces where street art addresses social issues and celebrates African identity. Yet the city remains marked by crime and inequality, evidence that dismantling apartheid's legal structure was easier than healing its economic and social wounds. Johannesburg doesn't offer easy answers or comfortable tourism. It offers something more valuable, an honest portrait of a nation still struggling to reconcile its brutal past with its aspirational future. From the summit of Table Mountain to the savannas of Kruger, from colonial wine estates to traditional Zulu homesteads, from the solemn halls of the Apartheid Museum to the vibrant streets of Maboneng, this journey through South Africa reveals a nation of profound contradictions and unexpected harmonies. Three oceans converge at this continent's southern tip, creating marine ecosystems of remarkable biodiversity. Mountain ranges trap moisture from the sea, generating microclimates that support everything from Mediterranean fynbos to subtropical forests. The interior plateau transitions from vineyard valleys to bushveld savanna, each landscape supporting distinct flora and fauna found nowhere else. This geographic diversity shaped human settlement for millennia. San people left rock art in mountain caves thousands of years before European ships rounded the Cape. Bantu migrations brought agricultural societies and metalworking. Later arrivals from Europe, Asia, and other parts of Africa added layers to an already complex cultural landscape. The result is a nation where 11 official languages represent genuine daily reality, not political symbolism, where traditional healers practice alongside modern hospitals, where ancient vocal harmonies influence contemporary music charts, where architectural styles from Dutch colonial to Art Deco to traditional African stand side by side in the same neighborhoods. The wildlife remains Africa's signature attraction. Elephants, lions, rhinos, and countless species existing in protected wilderness areas that span millions of hectares. These parks represent not just conservation success, but recognition that some things must be preserved regardless of economic pressure or human convenience. As the journey ends, the African sun sets in those colors that photographers chase but can never quite capture. Oranges and purples that seem painted across the sky. Table Mountain stands silhouetted against the horizon, unchanged by human activity, a geological constant in a land of transformation. South Africa, where the continent meets three oceans, where diverse cultures create something unique, where nature and humanity exist in constant negotiation, a place that offers not easy answers, but authentic experiences. Not simple narratives, but genuine complexity. Not perfection, but possibility. Now we leave you with the extraordinary beauty of South Africa. Sit back, relax, and immerse yourself in the landscapes, the wildlife, and the spirit of this remarkable land.